go on to the October 23rd meeting. We're on to item 11C, discussion of PFD board member positions that are up for reappointment. I show council members Smith and Decker are heading that up.
Yes. To begin with, everyone has been given the paperwork in order to be able to follow along if they so desire. Primarily, wanted to start with that this particular rally that we have been discussing, rally, protest, whatever, was for women's rights, protecting our wives, daughters, and grandchildren without trying to take away the rights of anybody else. And tonight is about, what we're talking about is women's rights. The wanted to start, if you turn to the timeline so we can put this in perspective, because I think it's important to have an understand for everybody to understand, especially those that are listening to us on TV or Zooming or whatever. The timeline was April 24th, the City Council appointed Vivian to the PFD board. On May 2nd was the first meeting that Vivian Dong attended. And
could I just, point of order? So the agenda says that we're going to discuss the PFD board member positions that are up for reappointment. So are we now discussing the reappointment of Vivian Dong? Is that what we're doing?
Well, we are talking at the council had asked me, or we have been talking, and we scheduled it for here for us to talk about what went on, and then we'll be having the vote for the two members that are up for reappointment to the PFD board.
Okay, so, but that's not what the agenda reads.
So I'll continue with, again, putting this in perspective. So May 2nd was the first PFD meeting of Vivian Dong. On June 5 was when the courts ruled against Olympus Spa. And then on June 6th was the second meeting that Vivian Dong attended. And I don't think that, out of those two meetings, I don't think anybody was arguing that she was not a troublemaker at these meetings. She was, from what I observed, she was polite and was more listening. I don't know how council members should be for their first few months. On June 8th, the Sovereign Women announced a rally that they were going to have a rally. They announced that on Twitter. June 9th, Carmen Rivera, who I believe she's a council member down south somewhere, publicized a counter-protest. June 12th, an article of Sovereign Women rally was in the Lynnwood Times. June 13th, a gentleman who's part of Antifa, I believe his nickname is Riot Dad, promoted Antifa to counter the women's rally. On June 17th was the rally protest, whatever word you want to use for that. Then on July 11th was the third PFD meeting. With that meeting, and before I move on to that, so that people at home can see, this was the flyer that was put out by Antifa to come up there to counter the rally that the Sovereign Women was putting on. So then, but getting back to the July 11th meeting, the meetings are scheduled for 2 hours. They have a 2-hour agenda. starting at 10 o'clock. The agenda item had it was called protest review. That's what the agenda item was. It was scheduled for around 10:30. And again, this was Vivian's third meeting. Chair Miller read 3 pages of a letter written. I was told that it was predominantly written by Executive Director Janet Pope. At the end of the reading, Chair Miller asked Vivian Dong to resign. She refused. She said she was not. And she was on Zoom at the time, by the way. I was also on Zoom. Ms. Dong then was given the floor to speak. After approximately 2 to 3 minutes, Chair Miller cut her off and had her Zoom microphone muted. Just trying to be as factual as possible on all this. No other members spoke or asked questions. At that point, and from some discussions with board members, it appears that there had been illegal activity counter to OPMA. The Public Facilities District has to go by our state law. You cannot have serial communication. You cannot have private meetings. They have to be public, or they have to be advertised under executive session. Neither of those was done. So again, this letter that had been written appeared to have been discussed with members, and then it was brought up here. Chair Miller then made a motion for the board to pass the no confidence letter. There was absolutely no discussion on this. The motion was passed by four board members. Ms. Dong was not allowed to speak to the motion, and her mic was continued to be muted for, I believe, at least during that part of the meeting. I think it was for the rest of the meeting. Chair Miller said that they were going to continue the meeting and invited Ms. Dong to leave the meeting. She remained on Zoom with her mic muted by the chair. I had, as a liaison, I usually get to speak on items, so I asked for to be able to speak, and I was told that I could not speak until the end of the meeting, which was unusual. At 11:05, the Lynnwood Times showed up. At 11:06, as has been stated before, and I will underscore this, Janet Pope passes Chair Miller a note reading, "The Lynnwood Times is here. You are free to stay, to say no to any interviews. You might want to adjourn before Jim speaks." Jim speaks was referring to me, Council Liaison. Chair Miller then said, "I think this meeting has gone on long enough, so I'm going to adjourn this meeting," and adjourned it at 11:07. That was without any motion. That was not allowing Council Liaison to speak like he normally is allowed. Moving on, the letter, we have seen the letter from the PFD board, and quite candidly, and trying to be as factual as possible, having looked into this, to be very candid, I'm not convinced. I know there's been accusations of racism. I don't know that racism was either verified or ruled out, so I'm not going to say that this was racist. However, it did seem to be systemic discrimination. That seemed obvious, that there was some reason that the new member of the board was not being allowed to speak, not being allowed to, and the Council Liaison wasn't allowed to speak. So looking into this, I had spoken with, I did call April Morrow, who is with Sovereign Women Speak. And some of the questions I asked her was, Janet Pope that claimed that Vivian Dong planned the protest. And I asked her, did you communicate with Ms. Dong in advance? And she said no, she had not had any communication with Ms. Dong. That's factual. That's Ms. Dong has also claimed that she did not have any communication with her. Have you communicated with her since? She says that she never has spoken before or after, but I believe there was some communication. Was a purpose a protest or a rally? And she said that call it whatever you want. It can be called either one. That it was their reason for doing this rally or protest was that they believed, the sovereign women believed that it was not okay for men, biological men, to be in a spa where the women are naked and then the biological men are also naked. That was her speaking there. And who projected the number? Because in the letter it said that there was up to 2,000 people projected. I don't know where that came from. There was some talk it could be 500 to 1,000. I don't know where in the world 2,000 came up. And who projected that? The numbers in April did not know. Although I think she had encouraged that, speaking that they're hoping they would have a lot of people, more than just 250. And I asked, did Sun Lee communicate with you asking the rally protest be canceled? And she said yes, that Sun Lee had contacted her, but at that point she said it was already happening. There was nothing that she could do. Was this primarily in support of Olympus Spa or biological women? Was my next question. And she responded it was about women in, biological women in safe spaces. Asked her if there's been any arrests previously by the rally, by her people, and she said no. I asked her, did she invite the 3%ers? And her answer was yes, that April Morrow said that she had invited the 3%ers. I asked, did you see anyone with guns? And she said no, only police. Now her letter goes on to talk about how Vivian Dong had nothing to do with the plan. This is a letter that we received from her, email that we received from her. That Vivian Dong had nothing to do with the planning, directing, or financial support of the Women Speak press she called a press conference that was held June 17th. She said she'd never heard about Vivian Dong until Jim Smith reached out to me a few weeks ago. Again, this 3-page letter was full of, I'll just call it, inaccuracies. There was accusations that Vivian Dong did things, and there's absolutely no proof that Vivian Dong did these things. Was she there at the event? Yes, I was there at the event, and I tried to go to both sides to talk to both sides. I was not welcome on one side. Vivian Dong was there with her husband. She was not directing anything. She did not speak there. I did not speak there. Again, I wanted to be there to be able to see firsthand what was going on. Moving on to, so then I did contact our chief of police and asked some, by email, and asked some questions. He put it on to Deputy Chief Patrick Fagan to answer me. Questions, were there accusations that the Sovereign Women Speak had firearms? There were accusations that the Sovereign Women Speak had firearms. To your knowledge, was that true? And it says that he responded there were attendees associated with the 3%ers who were carrying concealed firearms with valid state-issued concealed carry permits. So it wasn't in the open. It was concealed carry. However, the law says that they cannot be in these rallies with any of the firearms. It says, I made contact. This is Deputy Chief Fagan. He said, I made contact with two of them, and they provided their Washington State concealed carry licenses for my review of in the parking lot. The 3%ers were in support of the Sovereign Women Speak group, although I believe they were separate and distinct groups. Were there any firearms by Antifa side? He said no firearms were observed on that side as far as he knows. Early reports, my next question was, early reports said that there could be up to 2,000 people there. Do you have any idea where that estimate came from? Did the Lynnwood Police Department make that estimate? He said, his response was, I heard that estimate from the the Sovereign Women Speak leaders when I talked with her on the phone a day or two prior. She was referencing the fact that Safe Lynnwood had forwarded the information about the rally and therefore believed that a large contingent of local people were likely to show up. She also referenced media exposure on talk radio, which she believed would drive up attendance. That, again, is coming from April Morrow. We had no other estimates. Intel from online sources was sparse. The next question was the PFD letter claims that the Lynnwood Police Department recommended that business is closed for the day. Is that true? And he responded, I discussed with Mrs. Pope the issues involving private property, which she quoted their lawyers as asserting for the whole business complex, and the fact that it would be impossible for us to enforce any type of trespass authority in the complex if businesses were open. I did not tell them to close the business, but I did express the difficulty of controlling the site or excluding any one of the businesses that were open. Pope told me the day before that all businesses would be closed, but on the morning of the event, I found out that some businesses chose to remain open. They utilized private security to control access and traffic flow within the parking lot. The record store, whatever that is, they were open. I actually went in and spoke with the assistant manager. He said they had a normal day there as far as income was concerned. Also, I went to the Kona Kitchen because it was a good place to get some lunch, and I talked to the manager, the daytime manager there, and he said they were open on that and they had a normal day also. Did you or others in the, oh, and one other thing is that with this 3-page letter that we had, it said that people were not able to, the public was not able to get to the post office because of all this. The Lynnwood post office in that facility, that area, they are not open on Saturdays at all. They, and I know this, well, I thought I knew this because I have a P.O. box there and I can't get my mail on Saturdays. It's totally closed, even for people to get their mail. So that was an incorrect thing that was in that 3-page letter. And then the last question that Patrick Fagan had answered was, I asked, did you or others in the Lynnwood Police Department see Vivian Dong directing this event? And he said, I did not. So so many of the claims of this letter, again, were incorrect. I just mentioned a couple of those right now. The Vivian Dong, from everything that I have, it's not just from talking to her, but everything that people that I've spoken to that were related to this, she did not produce this. I find it unfortunate that the PFD board was given erroneous information and that they thought that Vivian Dong had done all these things wrong, and that was not true. You might not like Vivian for some reason. You might want to go to her Twitter account or her Facebook account or whatever else it is, and you might disagree with anything that she says. But several times I've heard over and over again how people on the board believe in First Amendment rights, yet they're not. The actions are not are not corresponding to that. There's talk about the businesses closed down. They did not close down, other than Sun Lee's facility. He chose to close that down, and I agree with it. So the tenants lost approximately $35,000. I don't know where that came from. The claims that did Janet inform Vivian that she could be there? Yes. In fact, Vivian had asked to be in, rather than being in the crowd, she had asked if she could be up in the facility, the event center facility, and she was told that she could not. So she was down where I was in the group down there. Again, I don't believe that anything that she did, there's nothing that I could see that, with only having 2 meetings and then attending that particular rally, anybody could have attended that rally. Anybody could have attended that rally. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. My suggestion, I'm going to cut it off now because I know I'm a little, I don't know whether I'm long-winded on this, but I thought it was important to bring up a few things, and I could bring up a whole bunch of others too. But I think that it's important for us to remember that we're all trying to get along, and yet the board was given and made their decision, from what I can see on it, from a document that was full of erroneous information. I am not faulting board members at this time. What I believe we should do, what's sad is that from a business standpoint, Vivian Dong was one of 5 members of the board. This could have, since Vivian didn't do anything wrong here with this particular rally that went on, the board and the executive director could have just gone on, and it could have been 4-1 votes on many things. But to, after just 2 meetings, come up with this 3-page letter that's all wrong makes no sense to me. No matter how we decide this tonight, this will be over. I think there's way too many questions have been brought up. Even if I'm no longer on the council in a few months, for me, it's not going to be over. All of this information is public information. Everything that's being done, and thank you very much, by the way, for mentioning about the finances, that we can come and give you a call and get together and go through that stuff, because I think that's very helpful. I had asked for more emails, and I was told they would try to get them to me by last Friday, and that did not happen. I was then told that I'll get them probably by the end of the month. Well, we'll see how that plays out. My suggestion, I know there was a lot of arguments on both sides of what we should do tonight. And my suggestion is we need to settle all of this down. I suggest that the council reappoint. We have never not reappointed someone. My suggestion is that the council reappoint both Mike Miller and Vivian Dong. And then we should be working on how can we all get along? How can we all be welcome? How can we all start talking to each other and saying, okay, the PFD board has a responsibility to be making sure that the district is run properly and that it's totally and completely open. It isn't, and that the OPMA laws are no longer broken, because that can affect the board members. So my recommendation is that we reappoint both members. Don't put politics in this. In fact, that was something that was claimed, was that they didn't want it to be in politics. Don't put politics in this. Don't decide on how how it affects us as council members, whether or not we get reelected or not. Let's just do the right thing. We've got two good people, Mike Miller, Vivian Dong. Reappoint them, and then let's see about how we can help with the PFD board, everybody getting along, and we can be a positive end to all of this. I am currently done.